Welcome to episode 14 in our ongoing deep dive series on the book The Power of Positive Thinking. And to kick things off today, I really want to ask you a
Oh,
question.
lay it on me.
Did you know that when you are lying in bed at like 2 in the morning and you're just staring at the ceiling, utterly exhausted but completely unable to rest, it is almost never your physical body that is actually keeping you awake?
Right. And that disconnect, between physical exhaustion and mental hyperarousal, it is one of the most common crises we face today.
Yeah, absolutely.
People toss and turn, and they feel the exhaustion deep in their bones, so they instinctively reach for a sleeping pill, right?
Because they just want to force a shutdown.
Exactly. They assume the body needs this chemical sledgehammer. But relying on medication to induce sleep, well, it treats the symptom while completely ignoring the underlying mechanism.
Which is what exactly?
Well, rest is a profoundly natural biological process. When you can't access it, you are almost always dealing with an illness of the mind rather than the body.
Wow, an illness of the mind.
Yeah, you are literally sending the high-frequency static of anxiety, unresolved tension, and fear straight from your brain's processing centers back down into your physical muscles.
Oh, that is an incredible visual. Sending diseased thoughts right into the muscles.
It's heavy, isn't it?
It really makes me think of, well, it's like leaving a car parked in your driveway overnight. You put the car in park, you take your foot off the brake, but for some reason you leave the engine running and you just jam a heavy brick onto the accelerator.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like the vehicle is completely stationary, but the engine is just screaming at 5,000 RPMs in the pitch dark all night long.
Yeah.
And then by the time you walk out the next morning, you wonder why the car is totally out of gas and the engine block is smoking. I mean,
Right.
your body was technically lying in the bed, but your mind was just redlining the entire time.
And the physical toll of that mental redlining is absolutely severe.
Yeah.
I mean, evolutionarily speaking, our nervous systems are designed to tense up when the brain perceives a physical threat out in the wild.
Like a tiger or something.
Exactly. The sympathetic nervous system engages, the brain pumps out cortisol and adrenaline, the muscles brace for impact, and you either fight or you run.
But we don't really have tigers anymore.
No, we don't. Today, the threats are almost entirely abstract.
Mm-hmm.
It is an unread email from your boss, or a looming financial deadline, or maybe just a passing social slight.
Right.
But the ancient brain doesn't know the difference between a predator and an angry email.
That is so wild to think about.
It still floods the engine with cortisol, but there's no physical release for
Mhm.
it. The internal machinery just tears itself apart from the friction. So we really have to look at specific, deliberate methods to pull that brick off the accelerator.
Because just telling someone to relax when their system is flooded with stress hormones is, I mean, that's about as effective as telling a hurricane to calm down.
Oh, totally. It never works.
So the breakthrough insight here shifts us away from just, hoping for a good night's sleep and moves us into practicing a highly deliberate three-step method for peaceful thinking. It's a really targeted system for avoiding all that hectic haste.
Yeah, and it requires a strict protocol.
Hmm.
The very first step focuses on disrupting that somatic feedback loop between the brain and the body.
Okay, so how do we do that?
You must physically collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And you practice this several times a day. You consciously let go of every single muscle.
Just totally slack?
Exactly. The text actually suggests conceiving of yourself as a jellyfish.
A jellyfish. Okay.
Yeah, just picture a jellyfish in the ocean. There is no rigid spine. There is no bracing against the current. You just allow your body to reach a state of complete, unresisting looseness,
Drifting.
drifting, yielding completely to the water around you.
Oh.
And when you physically force your muscles into that kind of slackness,
Yeah?
your brain's proprioceptors, those are the sensors tracking your muscle tension,
Yeah.
they register the lack of bracing.
Oh, I see.
The brain realizes, hey, there is no immediate physical threat to fight. And that naturally signals the nervous system to halt the production of adrenaline.
So the ocean current moves, and the jellyfish simply moves with it. It survives by totally eliminating resistance.
Precisely. Once you establish that physical looseness, well, the second step addresses the cognitive buildup. You must actively and frequently drain the mind.
Drain the mind.
Yeah, think of your daily irritations, your resentments and disappointments as this heavy sediment clouding up a glass of water.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like an offhand, critical comment from a coworker at 5 o'clock on a Friday can easily settle at the bottom of your mind and completely ruin your entire weekend.
Ugh, I have absolutely been there.
Right. So several times each day, you have to consciously pour that dirty water out. You externalize the anxieties so they do not calcify into permanent tension.
Like writing them down or something.
Exactly. Whether that involves writing them down in a journal to physically remove them from your head or mentally visualizing the release of that sediment, you just must empty the glass regularly.
Okay, so you collapse the physical tension, you drain the emotional sediment, and then you move to the third step, which is refilling that emptied glass with something better.
Yes.
And the text describes this as thinking spiritually, turning your mind to God at least 3 times a day. And the underlying mechanism here is really about acting as a tuning fork.
I love that analogy.
You intentionally tune your mind into a broader universal harmony. By doing this regularly, you actively refill your emptied mind with a macro perspective of peace.
Right, which prevents the microscopic static of daily worldly problems from just rushing back in to fill the void.
Exactly. The sequence is brilliant. Physical collapse, mental draining, spiritual refilling, but I have to push back hard on how this survives first contact with modern reality.
Oh, how so?
Well, picturing myself as a weightless floating jellyfish sounds absolutely incredible for a lazy Sunday afternoon on the couch.
Oh, sure.
But let's say it is Tuesday morning. I am completely swamped at work. My inbox is an absolute disaster zone of urgent requests. And I have like 3 overlapping deadlines breathing down my neck.
The classic Tuesday.
Right. If I collapse my muscles and act like a jellyfish in the middle of a high-stakes, chaotic environment, I feel like I'm just going to get fired.
Well, that reaction perfectly illustrates our modern misconception of productivity.
What do you mean?
We have been completely conditioned to equate tension with effort. We think if we aren't stressed out, we aren't working hard enough.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that hits close to home.
But true relaxation in a high-stakes environment does not mean a lack of productivity. Relaxation actually results from continuous recreation. It is about fundamentally altering how you approach the tasks, not avoiding the tasks themselves.
Okay, I'm listening.
When you are at work, lacking a deliberate system is precisely what produces that frantic, swamped feeling you just described. It is pure decision fatigue.
Right.
The rules for workplace productivity require a much crisper, structured approach. You stop trying to tackle the entire mountain of work simultaneously. You select one thing at a time. You plan your work, and then you work your plan with absolute focus.
So the structure itself acts as the container that allows the mind to stop panicking.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about the 10 other fires burning because your system is actively holding them. You know, it makes me think of chopping wood.
Oh, how so?
If you grip the axe with rigid white-knuckle tension and you swing with stiff, locked arms, you will exhaust yourself in 5 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
Every impact jars your bones, and hitting a knot in the wood sends shockwaves right up your spine.
Bro.
But if you use a loose, fluid swing, just letting the weight of the axe head do the actual work, you generate significantly more power with a fraction of the exhaustion.
That fluid swing is a really powerful way to conceptualize it. The ease or difficulty of your work depends almost entirely on your attitude toward it.
Really?
Yeah.
Entirely?
It is a proven psychological reality. If you look at a massive project and you repeatedly tell yourself it is going to be an agonizing, draining grind, your brain fulfills that prophecy.
Right.
Your muscles brace, your focus narrows, and every single email becomes a heavy lift. But if you consciously determine to like your work, if you tell yourself the task is manageable, the internal friction drops. The process becomes efficient.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this highlights exactly why procrastination is so uniquely destructive.
Because when you put off until tomorrow what you can do today, you aren't just delaying a task, you are accumulating undone jobs.
Yes.
And that accumulation sits right in your subconscious, consuming processing power and making your current everyday work feel infinitely heavier.
It really does.
It is exactly like trying to hike a steep mountain trail while someone walking right behind you keeps dropping extra rocks into your backpack.
What a terrible hike.
Right. The strategy here is to approach the work systematically and, crucially, to take God on as an unseen partner in your daily efforts.
Yeah.
You mentally share the heavy lifting, shifting that overwhelming cognitive burden away from your isolated self.
And that unseen partnership removes the crushing weight of operating entirely on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which provides the perfect bridge from our internal personal peace to our external relationships.
Yeah.
Because the reality is you cannot genuinely connect with others. You cannot build deeply rooted relationships if your mind is internally wound up, resentful, and suffocating under the weight of your own anxiety.
Just don't have the bandwidth.
Right. If you're walking around with a backpack full of rocks and gripping the axe with white knuckles, You are a closed, tense system. There is literally no space for anyone else to enter your orbit.
Which brings us face to face with a truly heartbreaking reality about human nature.
Yeah,
The single most devastating emotional state a human being can experience, like the absolute bottom of the emotional barrel, is the feeling of being unneeded.
it's so true.
When someone feels that nobody wants them or that they serve no purpose to the group, the psychological toll is just severe. And to protect themselves from the pain of that rejection, they often adopt a lone wolf persona.
Oh, yes, the lone wolf.
They project this hyper-independent, retiring personality. They might even say things like, well, I don't need anyone, but we are biologically wired to be part of a pack.
We are fundamentally social creatures. And when people adopt that introverted defense mechanism, they suffer a misery that is honestly difficult to overstate.
It's not just loneliness, right?
No, not at all. By retreating, the lone wolf doesn't just feel lonely. They actually start to psychologically sicken and wither.
Wow.
Chronic loneliness triggers physical responses comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
15 cigarettes a day, just from being lonely.
Yes. This ingrowing, isolated defense denies them the normal, healthy development that an outgoing, self-giving person experiences naturally. They completely miss out on the mutual reliance that sustains human health.
That's terrifying.
Living feeling unneeded leads directly to deep frustration, accelerated aging, and measurable physical illness. It is not just a sad way to live. It is a serious psychological crisis, and it requires active intervention to change the dynamic.
So, if someone is listening right now and maybe recognizing a bit of that lone wolf in themselves,
Sure.
if they want to dismantle those walls and bridge the gap to become someone others naturally gravitate toward, how do they actually reverse it?
Well, we look at the empirical data on human connection. The material highlights a fascinating university psychology study that analyzed the specific personality traits determining likability.
Okay.
And the findings completely dismantle the superficial advice we usually hear about being charismatic or networking effectively.
Oh, really? So it's not about being the life of the party.
Not at all. The primary trait that makes you likable has nothing to do with being the smartest or funniest person in the room. It ultimately comes down to possessing a sincere, forthright interest in and a love for other people.
Just genuine interest.
Yes. When you cultivate genuine interest, humans can sense it. We have mirror neurons that process microexpressions and body language.
Right. You can't really fake it.
Exactly. If you fake your interest, the other person's brain detects the subtle asymmetry in your smile or the slight delay in your eye contact. Sincere interest requires active listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
That's a huge distinction.
If you have that genuine affection, all the other charismatic traits naturally develop. The ultimate goal is to become what the study describes as a comfortable person.
A comfortable person.
Someone who's easygoing, genial, natural, and pleasant. People can associate with a comfortable person without any underlying sense of strain.
I absolutely love that phrasing, a comfortable person. Because think about the opposite for a second. Interacting with someone who is tense, overly reserved, or constantly critical-like, a scratchy personality.
Scratch? Yes.
It is exactly like wearing a beautifully knit wool sweater with absolutely no undershirt underneath it.
Oh, I can feel that right now.
Right. From the outside, the sweater looks fantastic. It might look incredibly professional, smart, and capable, but the second you put it on, it is abrasive. It itches constantly.
Yes, exactly.
The person wearing that scratchy sweater, the lone wolf, put it on because they thought it was armor. They thought it would protect them from rejection. They just don't realize the armor itself is what's making everyone around them itch.
That's brilliant.
People instinctively want to peel that sweater off and get far away from it.
The armor is the very thing isolating them. We naturally gravitate toward comfort, and we flee from abrasiveness.
So true.
If we want to draw people in, we must exercise deep, unflinching self-honesty. We have to be willing to objectively study ourselves, identify our own scratchy elements, the specific habits or defensive attitudes that cause friction with others, and we have to actively fix them.
It's an inside job.
Entirely. We must assume that the issues causing our isolation are within us and entirely within our control to change. We cannot sit back and wait for the world to somehow accommodate our rough edges.
And there is a highly specific, actionable micro habit here that you can apply immediately today to take off that scratchy sweater and become a comfortable person.
Yes, there's...
The habit revolves around consciously and intentionally building the ego of others.
The word ego is frequently talked about negatively, usually treated as synonymous with arrogance.
Hmm.
But in this psychological framework, the ego is the sacred gatekeeper to a person's subconscious.
Right.
It is the core of their self-respect. And it is incredibly fragile. When you deflate someone's ego, when you make them feel small, foolish, or unimportant, you inflict a deep psychological wound.
Ouch.
It demonstrates a fundamental disrespect, and they will naturally defensively recoil from you. But when you actively elevate someone's ego, when you deliberately build up their feeling of personal worth, you are validating their existence.
You're showing them they matter.
Exactly. You are showing high esteem for who they are.
Mm.
When you provide that validation, they feel immense gratitude, and they naturally, almost inevitably, like you for it.
What I appreciate so much about this material is how hyper-specific it gets regarding just everyday conversations. Take telling a joke, for example.
Oh, this is a great one.
We have all been in a group setting where someone starts telling a funny story. And the insight here is profound. It takes real vulnerability and courage for a self-conscious or shy person to step up, command the floor, and try to make the group laugh.
It really does.
So the micro habit is this. Never, ever steal the joke teller's thunder. Even if you see the punchline coming a mile away or you have heard the story 100 times, you keep your mouth shut and let them tell it.
Yes.
You laugh, you let them be the absolute hero of that moment.
Because stealing someone's punchline is a classic textbook example of a scratchy trait.
It's the worst.
People usually interrupt jokes because of their own insecurity. They want the quick dopamine hit of making the group laugh. But by doing that, you're intentionally deflating the speaker's ego and ruining their moment of social validation just to artificially inflate your own status for a fleeting, meaningless second.
It's so selfish when you break it down like that.
It is. Another vital microhabit in the same vein is learning to completely let go of the desperate need to always be right.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
You should never correct people on inconsequential matters. If a colleague is telling a story and says it happened on a Tuesday and you know for an absolute fact it was a Wednesday, let it slide.
Does it really matter what day it was?
Exactly. Correcting them serves zero purpose other than to embarrass them, interrupt their flow, and prove your memory is slightly better. It drains the energy right out of the room. Build them up instead.
You prioritize the human connection over the facts of just an inconsequential detail. It's the exact same principle behind the timeless truth that a person's name is incredibly important to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Remembering and using someone's name validates their identity. But becoming a comfortable person demands more than just, polite conversational tactics. Practicing this habit of building others up includes a strict mandate to sincerely attempt to heal every single misunderstanding you currently have. You have to drain your grievances. You cannot hold on to deep grudges and expect to project a naturally relaxed, easygoing aura. The internal friction will always leak out.
The friction always shows. You have to actively practice liking people until you learn to do so genuinely. Never miss an opportunity to say a word of congratulation upon someone's achievement or to express sincere sympathy for their sorrow.
It sounds simple, but it takes effort.
It does. But to do all of this, to genuinely build others up, to heal past misunderstandings, to be a consistent source of comfort, you cannot be running on an empty tank.
Right.
You need a deep spiritual experience so that you actually have something of value to give people. You need an internal reservoir of strength to draw from so you can help others be stronger and meet life more effectively.
And to anchor this entire discussion, from finding inner peace when you are tossing and turning in the dark all the way to outward likability and building up the people around you, we have a central power quote.
The foundation.
Exactly. This is the absolute bedrock of the entire philosophy we are discussing today. The quote is from Philippians 4:19. It goes, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me."
The magnitude of that statement is immense. And what is vital to understand here is that this is positioned not merely as a religious verse to be passively recited, but as a deeply functional, everyday psychological mantra.
It's an active tool.
Yes. It is a cognitive mechanism designed to actively override fear, hate, inferiority, doubt, guilt, and every single manner of defeat. When you face an overwhelming task, or when you feel that high-frequency anxiety creeping back into your muscles, repeating, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me fundamentally shifts the cognitive load.
That shift is everything.
It actively reminds you of your unseen partner and significantly lowers the stakes of failure.
It is the ultimate antidote to the lone wolf syndrome because you are never acting alone. And when you internalize that immense strength, you completely alter your dynamic with the world around you.
You really do.
If you give strength to people, they will inevitably give affection right back to you. It is a beautiful, self-sustaining cycle. You draw endless strength from your spiritual foundation. You use that strength to elevate the egos and the lives of the people in your orbit. And in return, you are blanketed in genuine affection and connection. You finally become that comfortable person.
It perfectly resolves the tension we started with, too.
How so?
The mind stops redlining at 2 in the morning because it is no longer burdened by isolated fear or social friction, and so the physical body can finally genuinely rest.
Van, what an incredible journey today. We have covered a massive amount of ground, and I want to challenge you, the listener, to take these concepts and apply them in real time.
Start today.
Do not just let this be an hour of interesting audio you listen to on your commute. Try the jellyfish technique today. The next time you feel your shoulders creeping up to your ears, physically force the muscles to collapse. Let the tension go. And in your very next conversation, let someone else be the absolute hero of their own joke. Ignore the urge to correct the small stuff. And when you sit down to tackle those undone tasks that are weighing heavy on your mind, approach them with a quiet, powerful ease, knowing you have an unseen partner sharing the work.
And as you move through the rest of your week, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to really turn over in your mind.
Go for it.
We discussed how actively building someone else's ego naturally draws them to you and fosters deep biological connection. So ask yourself this. How might your own ego's relentless need to always be right in inconsequential matters actually be the very armor that is making you feel so isolated?
That is a powerful question worth sitting with. Thank you all for joining us for episode 14 in our series on the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. Make sure to like and subscribe to get notified about our next deep dive as we continue exploring these life-changing principles. Until then, take a breath, let go of the tension, and we will see you next time.